Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the previous video, 2V found herself in a life-threatening situation when two addicts attacked her and left her alone in a desolate place. No one knew what her fate would be. Will 2V be able to overcome this challenge on her own? Or will someone manage to rescue her in time? Stay tuned for all the twists and turns in today's video. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. On a dark and haunting night, 2V was brutally attacked by two addicts who stole every last bit of her money. They didn't stop there. They continued to overpower her and left her unconscious, thinking they had finally ended her life. They abandoned her in a desolate patch of land near an old, decrepit house. Lying there lifeless and broken, 2V remained unconscious through the night. Miraculously, she was still alive, but her body was too weak to move, her faint cries sounding like desperate pleas for help. The next morning, Alan, on his way back from work, happened to cross the same path. He heard the weak calls for help drifting from the empty lot. Without hesitation, he rushed over, drawn by her desperate cries. When he reached 2V, he found her still motionless, deep in an unconscious haze. There was no time to waste, so without thinking twice, Alan scooped her up and carried her on his back. He made up his mind then and there he would take her home and care for her, no matter the cost. Alan carried 2V for what felt like miles, his arms aching, but his determination unwavering. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, he made it back to his home. As soon as he arrived, he called his mother, his voice filled with urgency and concern. "Mom, I found a girl passed out by an old abandoned house." Alan said, his voice shaking. "She's weak, and strangely enough, she helped me once before. She's a really kind person." His mother rushed over, immediately assessing the situation as she approached 2V. When she took her pulse, she could feel how weak it was. The worry in her eyes grew as she turned to Alan. "Call the doctor now," she said with urgency. "We can't wait, this is serious." As 2V's fever spiked from being exposed to the cold night air, Alan's mother didn't hesitate. She quickly grabbed a warm cloth and gently began wiping down 2V's body, hoping to cool her down. Even though 2V was a stranger, this kind woman's compassion knew no bounds. Her kindness and empathy transcended all barriers, and she was determined to help this vulnerable soul in front of her. It was in these moments of selfless care and genuine human kindness that you realize just how much the kindness of strangers can truly make a difference. Alan wasted no time in calling the doctor, his heart pounding with worry as he waited for someone to help 2V. When the doctor arrived, Alan stepped aside, allowing the professional to take charge. The doctor immediately began using his medical tools to assess her condition. After a tense moment, the doctor looked up with a sigh of relief. Thankfully, her life is not in danger, he said, his voice calm but still filled with concern. However, it seems she's experienced a severe shock. Being left alone overnight in that abandoned area has left her physically drained. I'll prescribe some basic medications and start an IV drip to rehydrate her. Once she's stronger, we can take her to a larger hospital for a full examination. Hours passed, the weight of the situation hanging heavily in the air. Slowly, 2V's eyes fluttered open. She felt disoriented, her mind clouded with confusion. Where was she? What had happened to her? Her surroundings were unfamiliar, and she struggled to make sense of what had occurred. Still groggy, she couldn't quite grasp the full scope of the situation. Her body was still weak, and her thoughts were clouded. But there was something comforting in the quiet, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel completely alone. Alan's mother was busy preparing a bowl of porridge for Tuvai, knowing that she must be both physically exhausted and starving after everything she'd been through. She wanted to help the young woman regain her strength, quickly offering her the comfort of a warm meal after such a traumatic experience. As she entered the room, Tuvi was still in a daze, trying to process the events that had unfolded. Alan's mother gently sat down beside her, offering reassurance. "I'm Alan's mother," she said softly. "My son found you unconscious in an abandoned house today, and he brought you here to safety." As soon as the words left the woman's mouth, everything came rushing back to Tuvi. The attack, the fear, the darkness, she remembered it all. Two men, ruthless and cruel, had overpowered her, and she had blacked out. She couldn't help but feel a rush of relief, realizing that she had survived. Tears welled up in Tuvi's eyes as she looked at Alan's mother. "I'm truly grateful to you and Alan," she whispered, her voice shaking. "If it weren't for him, I don't think I'd still be here. I came from the north to find my father and brother. I don't know what I would have done without his help." Just then, Alan walked into the room. He smiled at Tuvai, a reminder of their earlier meeting when she had been the one to help him. Now it was his turn to return the favor. After hearing Tuvai's story, Alan's mother's face softened with understanding. She gently explained that she knew where Tuvi's family was. They were just a few miles away. She reassured Tuvai that she should rest and heal first before making the journey to visit her family. "Take your time," she said kindly. "Once you're feeling better, we'll help you find them." For the first time in what felt like forever, Tuvi allowed herself to relax, knowing she was safe and surrounded by people who cared. It was a small but significant step toward finding peace again. As Tuvi slowly regained consciousness, her first thoughts were of her father and brother. The longing to reunite with them was overwhelming, and she couldn't help but express her deep yearning to Alan. Despite her weakened state, the urgency in her voice was clear. "I miss them so much," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't sit here any longer. I need to find them. I have to." Alan, his heart heavy with concern, looked at her with a mixture of sympathy and worry. He understood the ache in her words, but he could see how fragile she still was. Her body hadn't yet recovered from the horrors she'd endured. Gently, he advised, "Tuvi, you're still too weak. You need to rest for at least a day or two before you start that journey. I want you to be strong when you see your family again." But Tuvi was insistent, her desperation echoing in every word. She couldn't wait. The thought of being apart from her loved ones for even one more moment was unbearable. "Please, Alan, I beg you. I need to see them. Can you take me to them?" Her eyes full of pain and longing pleaded with him. Alan hesitated, the pull between his desire to protect her and her need to reunite with her family pulling at him. He saw the determination in her gaze, the depth of her emotions, and he knew he couldn't deny her this. Despite his lingering worry about her health, he finally agreed. "Okay," he said softly, his voice filled with a quiet resolve. "We'll go. We'll find them." Alan knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that he couldn't hold Tuvai back any longer. He was determined to help her find peace, even if it meant pushing aside his own fears for her well-being. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, one step at a time. After days of asking for directions and navigating unfamiliar paths, Tuvi finally found the address she had been desperately searching for. Her heart pounded as she approached the new home in Jak Lak, a land that had once seemed so far away. The long journey was about to end, and after so much longing, she was finally on the verge of reuniting with her family. As she stepped through the gate, the first thing she saw was her brother, her little brother now grown. The sight of him sent a rush of emotions flooding through her. Without a moment's hesitation, he ran toward her and wrapped her in an embrace, his joy so evident it almost brought her to tears. In that moment, everything she had been through, the pain, the struggle, the loneliness, seemed to fade away. All that remained was the warmth of family, the kind of love that can heal even the deepest wounds. Tuvai looked at her brother, now taller, older, and stronger, and felt a lump rise in her throat. It had been years since she last saw him, and seeing how much he had grown filled her with a bittersweet mix of pride and sorrow. "You've grown so much," she said, her voice shaking. "Thank you for waiting for me." Her brother thrilled to see her raced around the house, shouting to their father, eager to tell him that his sister had finally returned. But when they arrived at the house, their father was nowhere to be found. Just as the excitement began to fade into confusion, a woman stepped out of the house, her expression cold and unwelcoming. Tuvi's heart sank as she realized this woman was none other than her stepmother, the last person she had expected to see today. The warmth she had felt just moments before quickly vanished, replaced by a sense of unease. What would this encounter bring? Would her family truly be the same as she remembered? When Tuvi saw her stepmother, the coldness in her gaze sent a chill down her spine. The woman immediately scolded her adopted son for making noise and disrupting the quiet. But it wasn't just the reprimand that hurt, it was her cruel reaction to Tuvi's return. As Tuvai stood there soaking wet from the pouring rain, her stepmother's words pierced through her like a knife. "What are you doing here?" she shouted. "I already have a husband. Why aren't you with your own husband? Why are you back here causing trouble?" Despite the relentless downpour, her stepmother refused to let Tuvi inside. Instead, she coldly told them to stay outside while she retreated into the warmth of the house to rest. The woman's actions were ruthless, heartless, almost like something out of a dark fairy tale. If I had been there, I couldn't have restrained myself. I would have wanted to slap her for the injustice of it all. With a heavy heart, Tuvai tried to explain herself. "I just wanted to visit Dad and my brother for a few days, and then I'll leave." But her stepmother wasn't interested in hearing her out. She coldly replied, "Fine, visit all you want, but take your brother with you. I've been raising him for 2 years, but now that you're back, you can take him and leave. I'm done taking care of him." Her stepmother's harsh words stung deeply, leaving Tuvi devastated. The woman's cruelty wasn't just evident in her words, but in the way she had shut Tuvi out, forcing her to relive the pain of being unwanted and unimportant once again. Tuvi felt a deep, heart-wrenching sadness as she stood there shivering in the rain. How could someone she once called family be so cold? After years of separation, Tuvi finally stood before her father again. He embraced her tightly, his heart aching as he felt the frailty and exhaustion in her body. His daughter, once vibrant and full of life, was now worn down by the hardships she had endured. As he held her, the weight of the years and the pain she had gone through hit him hard. The sight of Tuvi left him heartbroken as he knew deep down that her marriage had been nothing short of a prison. Tuvi, though in the safety of her father's arms, couldn't bring herself to voice the full extent of her suffering. She couldn't bring herself to explain the humiliation and torment she had faced at the hands of her cruel husband, how he had once nearly sold her to traffickers. The thought of sharing that pain felt unbearable. She had endured it all in silence, shouldering the weight of it by herself, with no one to confide in. But now, at least her family was together again. The joy of reuniting with her father and her younger brother brought a sense of peace and warmth, even if it was fleeting. They spent time together talking about the years they had spent apart, sharing stories of struggle and survival. Her father, with gentle concern, urged her to stay with them, to be with him and her brother, to finally find some comfort after all the years of hardship. Yet the reunion was marred by the bitterness of her stepmother. The woman made it clear that she didn't want Tuvi and her brother staying in the house. Her disdain for Tuvi was evident, and it was clear that she wished for them to leave as soon as possible. The tension in the air was thick, and Tuvi could feel her heart sink. Would her stepmother do whatever she could to make her life even harder? What kind of challenges lay ahead for Tuvi? The answers would unfold in time, but for now, all she could do was brace herself for whatever was to come.
Chào mừng trở lại với kênh của tôi. Hôm nay Tử Vi sau một đêm kinh hoàng bị tấn công bởi hai kẻ nghiện lạ mặt thì cô ấy đã bị bất tỉnh. Hai kẻ đó đã mang cô đến một vùng đất trống để bỏ mặc cô, bởi vì hai gã đó cứ nghĩ rằng họ đã khiến cô ấy bị tắc thở. Nữ chính đã đấu tranh trong một khoảng thời gian dài giữa đêm lạnh giá mà không có được bất kỳ hơi ấm nào. Sau một đêm giá lạnh thì cuối cùng cô ấy cũng đã được một chàng trai tốt bụng giúp đỡ, cưu mang và đưa về nhà. Tuy nhiên sau khi cô ấy tỉnh dậy, cô ấy đã không nghỉ ngơi một chút nào và muốn đến thăm bố gia đình ngay lập tức, bởi vì hiện giờ cô ấy đã biết nơi ở của gia đình bố cô ấy ở nơi nào. Cô ấy cầu xin Alan đưa cô ấy đến để gặp bố và em trai, bởi vì cô ấy đang rất là nhớ bố của mình. Sau khi đến nhà không được như mong đợi, cô ấy đã nhìn thấy đầu tiên là người em trai. Cô ấy nhận được một cái ôm thật ấm áp, hơi ấm từ gia đình, thật ngọt ngào. Cuối cùng sau bao nhiêu cố gắng khổ đau thì cô ấy đã gặp lại gia đình, nhưng không vì thế mà người mẹ kế đã phá tan cái sự hạnh phúc đó. Bà ấy lao ra chửi Tử Vi rằng tại sao lại về nơi đây, bây giờ đã đi lấy chồng thì không nên trở về nhà của bố nữa. Người mẹ kế này rất là độc ác. Vậy bà ấy sẽ làm cái gì để ngăn cản sự hạnh phúc của cô về với người cha của mình? Hãy cùng nhau đón xem tiếp nhé.